Hey, welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and begin. So as we start, usually our first thing that we do is we just notice that everything that we're doing here is really driven by our mind, our thinking mind, how we choose what we're doing. So we're choosing now to bring our awareness to the body. Sometimes closing the eyes can help. Sometimes taking a deeper breath can really help. And still, as we're bringing awareness to the body, we might notice like I'm really thinking a lot. I'm thinking about my body. There's a lot of distractions. So that's just nature. That's just what the mind does is it thinks, but it can also choose to bring awareness to the body. Deeper breaths. So as we're sitting here, we're actually going to do those, what are called the 6 movements of the spine, just to get the spine kind of awakened. So I'm going to back up a little bit here because our first action is where we reach the arms forward and you actually round your back like a cat pose. So you're pulling your shoulder blades apart, your navel pulls in, and you're rounding your back. This ends up looking like a rowing motion. So I'm going to make fists with my hands, and then as I pull back, lift your chest, you lift up here, and then you let this go. The arms, the fingers reach forward, you round your back, you pull your navel in, and then as you come up, you inhale. Let this be pretty organic, that as you're exhaling, you round your back, you inhale, you come up, and as you're doing this, your pelvis is really rocking back and forth. It's like your pelvic bowl is spilling forward, spilling back, and the spine moving like this wave-like movement in your spine. Ah. Part of this also, when we do cat and cow here, is the lifting up. It's almost like your heart really stays lifted up as you do this. You're not lifting your shoulders up, rather, you're lifting up through your spine. Now, as you let this go, your arms come down and you're straight up and down. And we go side to side. So we just start to reach one arm up. We just do a little side to side. So now the spine really is just lengthening straight up. And you could imagine like the sides of your spine starting to open up. Lateral action of the spine, side to side. And really keep your hips grounded down. Like I can even feel like my legs are grounding down, but there's lifting up of your rib cage. Again, you're not really like pushing your shoulders up to your ears. So shoulders are staying down. Your mouth is relaxed. Your throat is relaxed. And then as we let this go, just as the arms come down, you're just going to take your right hand on your right knee, and then your left arm opens to the left. So you twist. As you're twisting, you lift right up through the very crown of your head, and then you take the other side. So I just have left hand on left knee, right arm swings back a little bit. And this too, it's really aware, like I'm lifting up through the spine, and I'm not going to force my spine now as I go back and forth. Be mindful of where you're placing your hands. Like you're not really trying to crank your body. Feel your spine, possibly close your eyes. Breathe through your nose. Feel the space across your chest, space around your brain. Waking up is twisting. Imagine your whole spine twisting. Good. So as we let go of this, we've just done that little bit of waking up in the spine. So you're going to move right into your downward facing dog. Since we got the spine moving. And now we're just going to lengthen. So open your hands, nice grounding, pressing down of your hands, and then the toes under. And you just start to lift up here. Right away, we make sure that there's this quality of being just curious. You know, there's a feeling even of, I'm really curious about how this feels today. What's going on in my body? Because the moment, if we're not curious, like then we are distracted or we just kind of go on autopilot. So staying breath by breath, curious. Now go ahead and let the knees touch down and lift up onto your fingertips. So your hands go forward a little bit. It's like almost like you're working your finger muscles. And then go back to child pose. So hips go way back. Lengthen and even make sense. Space in your throat, your brain. So here your hands are not down. You know, your wrists are not down. And then we transition. We go back to down dog. So now I am feeling the weight bearing in my hands. And as I lift up, just right stretch, open your feet. Lengthen your spine. And this time the toes walk back a little bit. You move to your plank pose. Straighten your elbows, straighten your knees. So arms and legs are straight. And you're breathing. Now very lightly knees touch down. You go right up onto your fingertips again to your child pose. Lengthen spine from tailbone to crown of the head. As you come up, feel your hands, spread your fingers. So just right, grounding your hands, moving to down dog. You lift up, maybe reach your heels down, get into that nice deep stretch through your calves. Your thighs are pressing back. So from here, instead of kind of tippy-toeing forward, we're going to tippy finger. So tippy fingering back. You move your hands, your fingers back towards your feet, just a little bit at a time. And notice this transfer, like you're sneaking back where your weight is then eventually moving back onto your feet, your legs, and you end up in a forward bend, this full forward bend. Deep breaths. Let your head really drop down here. Good. Now you push right into your feet. You come all the way up. Reach your arms up. Straight up and down here. And then go ahead and interlace your fingers above your head. And just rotate your palms up. As you release your fingers, your arms come down, may your hands go behind you. You interlace your fingers behind you. So feel that pulling of shoulder blades together. You could even have your elbows bent as you do this, like pull shoulder blades together. So that's the opposite of a slouch. You're stretching across your pectoral area, the pectoral muscles across your upper chest, around your collarbones, like your collarbones are getting longer. And then as you release this, the arms go to the side a little bit, your palms are forward. So we're going to do that kind of balancing and moving in where you take your right foot, you step forward a little bit, and you balance on your right leg, and you just let your left leg swing. Now it's important you just do this in your own way. And it might feel a little tippy, but that's part of it. Like if you start to tip, that you use the muscles, you wake up the muscles to come back, to like, regain your balance. So your arms could even move here. That's okay. And then just pause in your tree pose, like take your left foot right on your inner right calf. Again, this might feel wobbly, but practice like engaging, like wake up the muscles to bring everything into the center. Soft, relaxed skin. Switch legs. Balance on left foot. As you're balancing on your left leg, the right leg can just move and swing. Your arms might go kind of forward and back also, or they could stay out to the side. Breathing the space around your chest, your heart. That's good. Like we're not just moving into that kind of rigid tree pose. We're letting this be really fluid. And then notice the difference when you just go to your tree pose. You balance on left leg, right foot. Again, maybe suggested position of right foot on inner left shin. And you lift. You can take your arms wherever you want. So it's all because of this curiosity. Like you stay really curious about what seems to work today. You're very honest about what's working, what's not working. Good. You let this go. So now we balance on the right leg. You're going to just move right into a little tree pose, right leg. Balance. Lift, grounding down, lifting up. Switch, left leg. Place the left foot down. Feel. Again, you're really curious about that sole of the left foot, grounding as you're moving in. The whole awareness of the whole spine, like, oh wow, this really takes back strength, abdominal strength. Let's do this one more time. Switch, balance on your right leg. Just feel like your whole body now, even your arms are doing the pose wherever you want. Your head, balance right on top. Switching again, balance on left leg. Breathe. Sensing internally, spacious. Now, as you let this go, both feet are down, and we'll just go right. Let's do a little sun salute here. You forward bend, you fold over. Hands come down, you step back to your down dog. To your plank pose. Lower down onto your belly. As you reach your legs back, we're going to take the arms back right away into just kind of a baby locust pose where you lift up head, shoulders, lengthen, lift your legs, and just reach back through your fingers. And that's going to draw your shoulder blades together. Breathe here. There's no strain or gripping. Just like awakened strength. Placing your hands ready for down dog. Move to down dog. Toes under, lift up. One thing you might notice really matters in down dog is what you're doing with your heels and your feet. Like you could lift your heels way up and then lift your hips way up. And notice the difference when you start to reach your heels down. So that's all done in a very organic way where you notice what really works today. Make sure you are reaching your heels down a little bit. But keep the spine lengthened. So we're going to tippy toe forward. Just take little steps forward towards your hands. Full forward bend to Uttanasana. And come up. Push into your feet. Come all the way up. Reach up. And bringing the arms down. So we're going to do a little sequence that is going to start with the legs wide apart. So you're going to just stand, turn to one side, and take the feet wider apart. And even here, just really nice straight legs. Lift up, reach your arms up. And as we're doing this, as you're bringing awareness, like that strong pose here, you might even feel the soles of your feet. Like, ooh, soles of the feet nice and open. My toes are kind of spreading here. Navel lifted a little bit. So we're going to open to Warrior Two. Now I'm going to my right side and you can go to your right side. Right foot opens to your right. And you start to bend your right knee. Okay, so that right knee really points directly to the right. Notice if you start to arch your back, right? So we maybe lift the navel, drop your tailbone, open the soles of your feet. And now arms reach out to the side, way out. Again, even just kind of naturally look to the right slightly, but don't force. And as you're breathing here, this is where the connection happens and possibly the disconnection. So when we start thinking things like, oh my gosh, my arms are already tired. Oh, like when is this pose going to get easier? You know, it seems like it shouldn't be so hard. We have to be mindful of those thoughts. So rather, you know, we could, like wisdom could come in and say, yeah, guess what? Every time I do this, it's work. It's a lot of work. So I should expect that. I mean, even for me, this is a lot of work. I have an urge to bring my arms down. That's when I breathe and I know like that's the friction. That's that, this is hard. So you're going to straighten the right leg and just take this to triangle pose. Keep the feet grounded. So straightening the legs, hinge in that right hip. Now don't sink your chest, so keep the chest a little lifted and just place the right hand, right leg, and then that top arm reaching up. Now stay wide across your chest. Lengthen your whole spine all the way to your brain and feel. Breathe. So stability. I'm going to feel really stable here. Whole body doing this, like you're holding your head up. You're not just sinking. Each breath, you move into the pose. You wake up the strength. Like the stronger and sharper this gets, you'll probably feel muscles stretching. For example, your inner right thigh. Like, nice deep stretch there. So you could start to look down a little bit and take that top arm down as your left arm comes down. Both hands are down on the mat, either side of your right foot, and you're going to step back to downward facing dog. As you step back, be aware of the grounding, the feet, the hands. Each breath, like you gradually move into this because it involves a lot of waking up of strength. Muscles are stretching and you just give them that time. Move to plank pose. You might scoot your feet back a little bit and then move back to down dog. And just do this back and forth, back and forth. So you're aware that you're keeping your legs straight and your arms straight the whole time. So we're really listening on so many levels, and of course, we listen to thoughts, right? But there's more. That's not all. There's the body we listen to. Even in a subtle way, we're listening to our own attitude. How are we relating? What is our attitude to doing this work? Now move in your own way down onto your belly, onto the floor, and reach your legs back. So we're going right to that little Shavasana. The arms reach back. Lift your head, you lift your shoulders, lengthen, lift your legs. Engage your thigh muscles, your quad muscles will straighten your legs. Reach your heart forward and then reach back through your fingers. And now feel your whole body. Feel into your attitude, the inner little chatter that happens here. You're feeling like, yes, this is a lot of work. Usually it's a lot of work because these are muscles we typically don't use. So like, of course, it's going to, you might feel like, oh, why is this so hard? Well, of course it's hard because we don't do this a lot. Move back to down dog. Lift. Breathing. In a way, this is why I sometimes hear the comments like, why is it that my last down dog is often easier than my first one? It's like, well, because we're waking up the whole body, waking up these underused muscles, and it matters. So you're going to lift your heels up here, and you're just going to reach your right leg up. Like you're doing the splits, you're like my morning splits. Like lift. And then bend the right knee, pull it in towards your chest, and then step that right foot forward. Big step. And then here, you're in lunge position, what I call high lunge. So back leg is straight, right knee is bent, and I just lift it up on my fingertips here. Now, if you do have, hips that just don't do this pose, this is when you would bring in yoga blocks. Like you might be higher up here using yoga blocks, okay? So it's interesting how those blocks under your hands are actually there because of your hips. So practicing by listening to your body. Taking a little twist here, bring right hand up to right thigh. Lengthen your spine and open to the right. You're opening that right shoulder. Maybe bring the right arm, reach it up. Whole body. Breathing, opening. Untwist. And then drop the left foot down. And we'll lift to warrior one pose. So you just lift your hands up. Back heel grounding. Draw your tailbone in and lift up through your spine. As you're ready, arms reach up. Straighten that back leg. Ground that heel. Lift your navel. So there's going to be probably some discomfort here. Like, oh my gosh, this is intense. And you open, so that's a big part of our practice is moving into that. Yes, rather than kind of shrinking away. Now, arms are going to go out to the side, and we're just going to rotate. So feet will pivot, so you're back where you started. Feet parallel. And then just hinge in your hips. Take your hands behind your thighs and move to a forward bend. You could even take your hands and just give your legs a little massage. So you have like that direct touch of like where you're feeling it in your legs today. Make sure that the soles of the feet are really awake, kind of strong, supple. And go ahead and come up. Now, as you come up, lift up your legs, lift up your spine, arms reach up. So we get to do the other side. We're going to take just your left foot open to the left. So to bend your left knee. Right leg straight. We're starting by just building this warrior two pose. Reach your arms out to the side. And just feeling like already, like feeling the work here. Noticing your attitude. Like, okay, this is a lot of work, but I'm okay. So underneath, we remind ourselves, like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm going to feel the strength of the back. Looking a little bit to the left. Just breathe, even kind of sharpen the pose. Soles of the feet open. You're balancing, you're stable. Feel like instead of the arms starting to fade, You keep moment to moment bringing that strength in and the curiosity in. Wow, like maybe there's trembling or fatigue. Like, okay. Start to straighten your left leg. So both legs are now really strong, straight, hinge in the left hip. Strong as you move to your Trikonasana triangle pose, the left hand touching. Keep the buoyancy of the heart as you reach your right arm up. So you're wide across the chest. You're breathing. Opening. The whole time, we want to move from a place of deep stability. Remember, now is the connection. Like this is when the yoga really starts. We're really certain. Okay, I'm able to open to this. This is hard. Sensing the working, you might even feel the working muscles and the muscles that are stretching. There's going to be both. So the top arm now is going to come down. You could look down and move back to down dog. So stepping back, find your footing, your handing, length of your spine, kind of even the energy in the spine. So you could lift your heels a little bit. We're going to reach the right leg back, and we're going to bring the right foot down. And then the left leg is going to go back, coming down. You do this back and forth. This is one of my favorites. It's such like a simple action, but really challenging. When you reach your leg back, like using that side, the glute, the butt muscles. Breathing here. Feeling that kind of that intensity, even the urge to stop doing this. But you keep going. Breathe, feel. And then transition now to your plank pose. So in plank also, you just could remind yourself, like this is, like it's always going to be a challenge. It's not going to suddenly get easier. Even, maybe unless you practice a lot. But it will always be work, right? In your own way, lower down. Legs reaching back. Heart reaching forward, grounding your pubic bone. Breathe. Same Shavasana, you lengthen, lift your legs. Feeling those thigh muscles, quad muscles working. Arms reach back. Breathe, whole body. And move back to downward facing dog. Breathing, feeling your chest. And in down dog, your heels could lift a little bit as you reach or lift your left leg way up. Like you're doing the splits. And then you pull your right knee into the, or left knee into the chest. And then you step forward, that left foot. Just finding your high lunge position. It takes work to straighten the back leg, to lengthen your spine. Left hand up to left thigh. And then start to twist, like even around your navel. You open to the left. You breathe. You reach your left arm up. As you let this go, the arm comes down. And the right foot just drops down to the mat. As you start to lift your hands away from the mat, warrior one. Ground your back heel. There's the lift of the navel, the lift of the front hips. The hip bones lift up, lifting through your spine, reaching up. And then you reach your arms out to the side. Pivot, you face the right, and then you pivot your feet. So feet are wide apart but parallel. Take your hands behind you, even interlace your fingers for a moment here. Lift your chest now. You might even keep your hands right here. Draw your shoulder blades together and move to your forward bend. But you can, of course, do whatever you want with your arms. I just like giving different suggestions. So as you go to your forward bend, you lift your arms, but draw your shoulder blades together. Breathe. So this is a good one where legs are both working and stretching. And lengthen the spine and come up. As you come up, you release your fingers and you step your feet together, bringing your legs together. Just move right into our mountain pose for a moment. So legs, it's almost like that counter pose where it's the opposite, where the legs are together and you're upright. Look straight forward. So one of the after effects of this work is you might notice, like when you walk around during the day, that it's almost a little bit easier just having a body. So that can be that little bit of feeling, oh, it's not such a burden. You know, I'm like we're doing all this work just to walk around and feel stable and at ease, right? So in your own way, noticing all of the after effects of this work. So let's move down to the floor for a moment. So we're gonna just sit. We will lean back a little bit, take the feet wide apart, and just drop the legs back and forth, side to side, kind of loose. This is just really good for the belly, for your pelvis. Even take now, we're going to drop legs to the left side. We're going to lift the right hip and just take a little bit of a twist. So here, this is a good one for bringing your sacrum in. Okay, so as you draw your tailbone, your sacrum in a little bit. As you open and you take a teeny bit of a twist. And then we'll let that go. As you let go, your knees drop to the other side, and you really lift your top hip. And you draw your sacrum in, your lower back draws in. You just do a little bit of a twist. So what happens is the front of that top hip is very open. You're not in flexion. It's not creased there. It's open. And then keep the heart lifted here. Now play with just doing that kind of small action back and forth. Like the whole front of the body stays very open. Back and forth. It's an interesting, like just a hip action. It's good for, what we call, like in yoga, this variety, like really huge variety of movements that we do. And this is a good one for being really sensitive to your lower back, your hips, your amount of just twisting here. So it's like a twisting, releasing. Because that's a lot of times how we twist, right? It's pretty brief. Like you have to twist to look back or something. Like we're practicing that movement of twisting. Breathe to your belly. Feel. Light heart, really keep the heart lifted up here. Good. Go ahead. As you release that, your legs are going to go straight in front of you. And you're going to just extend out over your legs. So right away, you'll probably feel this in your legs, right? So this is why it can be good to kind of move into this, like let yourself go forward and then lift up a little bit, like decrease the intensity and then move into it. Don't rotate your legs at all. Like keep your toes straight up. Lengthen. Try not to round your back. It's like your spine is falling into your body as you're going into this. What I find here, like as you play with this, as you get really curious, is that the sensations here is very different than a standing forward bend. You might even reach your arms, reach your hands forward. Let your belly move towards your thighs. Good. And then coming up. So we're going to do a little work on the side body. So this one, we're actually going to start. Why don't we just start on all fours? So from here, we're going to just drop the right forearm down. So I'm going to take the forearm right in front of me, and I'm just going to lay on my right side, okay? So you're laying on the right side, the legs are stacked, and that forearm, your right elbow is down. Now you can keep your left arm, your left hand touching here at first. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift the hips up away from the floor. Now this might start kind of small. Like you lift up and then you lower down, okay? So you could reposition your bottom elbow if you want to, and just lift and lower. Again, kind of reposition, lift, lower. That top arm, you could explore just keeping that arm right at your side as you lift and lower. Lifting, lowering. These are like these whole side muscles that, again, we don't do this a lot. So this is what yoga does, right? We get into all the nooks and crannies here. Lifting, lowering. And then we'll just go ahead and switch sides. I'm going to totally rotate just so that I'm still facing you. So left forearm down, and I'm extending my legs. So one thing you're clearly not doing here is you're not sinking into your bottom shoulder. Like that could be really step one here, is lift up. Do not sink into that shoulder. So those is a set of muscles that, like, oh, well, that's a lot of that whole shoulder area that we're not sinking into. You could keep your top hand on the floor. Sometimes it's just stabilizing. And lift up, lift your hips up and lower down. And I'm saying hip because that's what it feels like, but really it's your whole, your legs are lifting up. Lift, lower. Lift, lower. And just keep playing with this. Again, this can be a really intense feeling. Take the top hand, maybe along, just so it's not touching. Bring it up, lifting, lowering. Just keep practicing your own way. Good. And then we let this go. We're going to move on to all fours. So that's getting, into like side body, right? Well, a slightly different way of even working like outer hips is right here on all fours. So you're just on all fours, arms are straight, and you'll just lift the right leg out to the side, and then it comes down. Left leg lifts up, it comes down. And just do this back and forth. So you're not very concerned about like how high am I lifting my leg. It's good to let go of those thoughts. And breathe and feel. And really listen to your body like, well, where could I let go of tension? So when we let go of those unhelpful thoughts, we can really breathe and feel the whole body doing this. Make sure when you lift your leg up that you don't sink down to the floor, okay? You're actually kind of pushing up as you're doing this back and forth. Breathing. Good. And then as we let this go, we're going to take the pose of Dolphin Pose. So this is a little different than down dog. You can always do down dog. On your elbows, hands together. You could interlace your fingers if you want to. And then toes under and we lift, just like down dog. We lift up. Breathe, really, lifting up here. You might even tiptoe forward a little bit. Lift your hips way up. Ah. Keep pressing the forearms down. Lift the hips up. Lengthen your spine. Good. And then knees come down. Hands go forward. You're on your fingertips. And you move to child pose. So coming up, so we're going to take, a little bit similar kind of tying this work together. We're going to take that pose of side plank, but it's an approach where it's kind of playful, moving into side plank, okay? So I am going to demonstrate this. You can do it with me, or if you need to watch, you can. So I'm on all fours. I'm taking my legs back one at a time. So I'm in plank pose, right? And then I'm kind of walking my feet a little bit, and I'm just going to roll onto the edges. So I'm going to point my toes to the right. So that means I'm on the outer edge of my left foot and the inner edge of my right foot. And then I'm just going to open up and reach my right arm up. So this is the same muscles, like instead of sinking down, I'm lifting my hips up away from the floor. Top hand comes down. I kind of move to down dog again. And then I'm going to point my feet to the left. So my outer right foot drops down, my inner left foot down. And I'm going to open up here. To the left, lengthen. Keeping the heart nice and light. Left hand down, back to down dog. So very intentional placement of hands and feet. Moving to the right again. So this could be kind of a playful back and forth. That outer left foot, the inner right foot, pushing down. And I'm going to open up here. Lift the heart. Just breathe. And then you release down. You move to down dog. You could even take your knees down for a moment. Moving to down dog, walk your feet, and then towards plank, pointing feet to the left. Opening to your side plank, this variation. Don't sink. Even when you bring your hand down, like you're not collapsing. Now, if you want to practice that classic variation of your side plank, you could bring your outer left foot down, stack your right foot on top, so toes are pointing to the right, and you open, you reach your right arm up. You breathe, and then you switch. Hand comes down. It can be that brief little down dog. And then your outer right foot grounding, pushing. Left foot on top or on the mat. You open up. You breathe. Top hand comes down. You move back to your down dog. Now this whole time you could be practicing your plank pose. It's so good to just opt out sometimes. Knees come down. And that's why too, I just went through that variation. Let's just do that. You're gonna lay on your left side. Left forearm is down. Straighten your legs. And just in your own way, if you lift your bottom hips, you lower. You lift your hips up, you lower. Lift up, you lower. We're going to just roll to the other side, roll onto your outer right hip. You're laying on your right side. Being sensitive, feel that positioning of your bottom forearm. You lift up, you lower. Lifting up, lowering. Lifting, lowering. Do it your own way. Good. As you let this go, releasing to come back up to seated. As you come up, we're taking the soles of the feet together. So here, hips are now rotated, completely different position. Please, we could all start with hands behind, even lean back a little bit, and open the front of your body. Take the legs in front of you again. Just extend straight out. So it's good here to really ground down. So your thighs actually work to push your thighs down. And the more you push down, the more upright you are, and your spine draws in. So that's that kind of that energy we need to start out with. And then the hinge, the deep flexion in the hips. So this pose really is flexion in your hips. It's not your spine rounding, right? So ground your thighs down, lift your chest, and then that flexion in the hips. Breathing, reaching forward. So as your heart reaches forward, your thighs push down. Now there's always, there's a little wiggle room here because, we have a belly, we, have some bulk to our body, right? So as you go over here, there's going to be a little bit of rounding. But it's that energy, that reaching the heart forward. So as you're moving into this, then it's just that right effort of grounding the thighs and energy through the spine, reaching forward to the point where we're completely free of any concept or idea, like what we want this to look like. Directly connected to the body. Now just breath. Start to take some deeper breaths. Stay with the intensity. Make sure you're not gripping and hardening your belly. And come up. Lengthening to come up. Leaning back a little bit. Lift your heart. And then take the soles of the feet together again. So that rotation in the hips. Even feel like you could sense some space in your hips as you're doing this. I'm just going to throw this out there. This one thing, when you do this pose, and I know there's folks out there whose hips just don't do this. They don't really separate apart like this very much. So a good thing to do actually is to bring in some really big pillows so that your legs have something to kind of push into. You get that feeling like, grounding down. So, and anyone can do this. Like if I use these two pillows and like I can kind of, oh, now, because I can't push my legs to the floor. So now with this pillows here, it's like, ooh, something to really ground into. So that can be really good to play with. It can bring a different sense of spaciousness in the hips. So releasing that, letting go, and we're going to move on to the back, just doing a couple last poses here. So as you recline onto your back, take your arms out to the side, and let's just stay here for a moment with knees bent, feet on the mat. You might reposition, like really feel your lower back, your sacrum, grounding, and do a little bit of that tilt where you contract your navel and you pull your navel down. And this is going to really flatten your lower back. And it actually kind of squishes and squeezes your belly. Like I think of a sponge, that you're kind of squeezing the sponge. And then you relax that. And now you arch your lower back, like you're bringing in that lumbar curve to your lower back. So I'm like sliding my hand under my lumbar, and there's my lumbar arch. And this is going to open the front of the body. And even you could lift your middle spine slightly. And you do that back and forth a few times. Try not to let your legs open apart here as you're doing this. You're keeping your legs parallel, and it's just your pelvis rocking, moving, and sense the almost like the contents of your pelvic bowl. It's like there's your kind of your belly, your upper belly stomach area, and then there's way down your pelvic bowl, and just feel this whole vast space, how you contract, you kind of squeeze abdominal muscles, and then you relax that. Just gonna open up belly space. Because it doesn't take a giant action to do this. To get your lower back, your sacrum, that area moving. And it's this rocking that's so cleansing and purifying. Feel the weight on your sacrum, on that area, and then lift your feet a little bit and squeeze your legs together. Start to drop your legs to the right and then to the left. So now you're rocking across your pelvis, across your sacrum, and you're actually lifting like one buttock, and then you go to the other side, you lift the other hip and buttock, you lift up. Now keep your spine kind of lifted up into your body as you're doing this, and be aware like, oh, I'm twisting. Keep the sides of the body lengthening as you're twisting. Relax your head and your face. Please keep your shoulders down as you do this twist. It's a really good one for tuning in. because I'm pretty sure that this is quite sensational, that there's a lot of sensations as you're doing this, like even around your brain and your neck, because that space is very open and there's a slight movement, but a real sense of spaciousness. Let this be like just this right balance of working, but also allowing the twist. I find it can be good to go pretty slow as you're doing this. Slower could be a little bit more challenging, but also it gives the body time to move into that nice deep twist, kind of that the body needs some time to allow the twist. Breathe. Feel spine lengthening. Good. And then as you pause, just right in the center, you drop your feet to the mat. Maybe reposition your whole spine here. You could bring your arms a little closer in. So this is the pose of half Shavasana. So just feeling that you're relaxing. The sense of in your belly, you're not doing anything now. You're not doing any of the pelvic movement. It's just neutral, letting go. And in your own way, you just move to stillness. Like there might be that, just that little smile because you're done doing the physical work. And now there's really nothing to do. So you might extend your legs, just let the legs straighten out in Shavasana. But be sensitive, like where this feels right for your bones, your joints. Your neck. Feel the weight of your head just dropping, releasing. So it takes some time, right? Some time for the body to settle in. Sometimes laying flat on the floor just feels kind of awkward or not very relaxing. So we remember, well, this is a pose. It's asking the body to be very open. So practice being compassionate. And this is going to take a little time to allow this. So just bring awareness around your lips. Just feel like your lips soften, relax. Or the space around your throat. practicing letting go. This isn't about, just now falling asleep. Rather, we're very curious about this because you're aware of your forehead. Really notice, like, oh, I can soften the space of my forehead. But it only happens when I'm really consciously there. And soften the throat again. Like I'm aware of my throat. Aware space of the belly. Yes, there's the belly. The weight of the legs. You just feel that little bit, just legs releasing, dropping. We keep circling back. This is how it works. Is throat relaxed, whole head. Imagine the space around your brain. There's maybe thoughts coming in, but they're kind of in the background. Notice that you're breathing. Notice this, like, oh, there's this little stream of air that's moving. Very curious. I don't usually notice or watch my breath, but just making sure that my breath is free to move. Imagine the breath moving through your whole body, sweeping through, cleansing. So the sound of the bell really is really just a beautiful reminder that this awakened connection. It's like telling you, like, honey, stay here. This is where life is. Live your life. Be here. So even now, as you're coming out of Shavasana, there's you know, you actually part of you really stays in Shavasana. Like all of these poses are in like in this body memory in a way. So as you come up to seated, it's like, connected, relaxed. It's called this joy of connection. Let's take palms together in front of the heart. As you take a breath, maybe reflect on it's even like your own personal experience, what you received from your practice today, and how it's a giving and receiving. Whatever we receive, that we then give, it just flows out from us. This compassion, we've learned how to be compassionate. Closing with the sound of Om. We'll take a deep inhale. Thank you, everyone, for your practice, for doing this work together, and really taking care of yourself, because this is not easy. So we continue learning that this work it's never going to end, right? And it's not a burden. It doesn't have to be a burden. This body and its needs. So may we continue to connect to this joy.